Well, I want to challenge you to think bigger because God does have more for your life. Start praying for things that stretch your faith. Hey, it's Terry Savelle Foy, your cheerleader of dreams. Thank you for joining me today. I met a girl last weekend who came to my conference and listened to what she said. She said she came to a conference 6 years ago in Tyler, Texas. She was in a season in her life where she was just stuck. She lost hope and all vision for her life, really didn't have any goals. She said she was feeling so down, but for some reason, she knew she was supposed to hear the message. She heard me talk about making a dream journal or making a vision board. So she went to Office Depot, got a 3-ring binder, and she started writing her dreams. Well, God began to remind her of dreams that she had forgotten about. But she thought those dreams were just hopeless, she said. One of them was going back to school to become a nurse. Her vision came alive on the inside of her, and at 32 years old, she went back to school, got her degree, got her nursing certificate, and is now a full-time hospice nurse and loves her life. She brought her whole office staff to hear me recently to inspire them to keep dreaming. In other words, don't look at all the years you've lost. Let's look at the years you've got left. Well, I want that for you. But sometimes we don't know what we want because we haven't been exposed to more. See, it wasn't until she came to a conference, got in an environment that caused her to just wonder and start asking, does God have more for me? Well, I want to challenge you to think bigger because God does have more for your life. Start praying for things that stretch your faith. See, if you can accomplish all of your dreams and goals in your own strength, then you don't even need God's help. I always tell people, don't just ask for gas in the car, ask to pay off the car. Don't just ask for enough money to pay your bills, ask for money to put money in your savings account. Don't just ask for food on the table, ask to bless the family at that other table too. This friend of mine, I tell her, I say, don't just ask for any husband, ask for a millionaire because she has a wealthy mindset. She has a t-shirt that says, I love long romantic walks to the bank, which I think is funny. But, I heard this story about a man who, he lost his wife of many years. Later, he remarried, and he said he wanted new furniture in his home to start this new beginning. He kept believing, Well, his son called, and his son won $37 million winning the lottery. Well, he bought his dad furniture, a car, a brand new house, more than he could ask or think. He said he taught his kids 3 things. 1, don't smoke. 2, don't drink. 3, don't gamble. He said 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I just thought that was funny. But my point is, get your hopes up. Expect God to do something big in your life. I'm not saying win the lottery, but I'm just saying the only way you can get your hopes up is through exposure. I heard this story about a frog that was born at the bottom of a well. Now bear with me, I promise there's a point to this. He and his family lived there, and he was content, and happy just splashing around there. But as he got older, he saw a light at the top and he wondered what was up there. He thought he had all the water in the world. Well, with great caution, he looked over the edge. First thing he saw was a pond, thousands of times more water than he had. Then he hopped to a lake. He couldn't believe all the water. Then he hopped more and more to an ocean, water as far as he could see, miles and miles of water. He began to realize that his vision was so limited. He thought he had it all, but he began to realize it was only just a drop in the bucket compared to what God had for him. Well, my point in this cute little frog story is that the dream in your heart may be bigger than the environment you find yourself in. That's why you need to expose yourself to more. See, your environment, it teaches you to be content. But God is saying, break out of your comfort zone, see bigger, think bigger, because God does have more for you. That's why, I host my annual Icing Women's event in Dallas each year, because something powerful happens when you get around other women in an environment that's exciting, it's positive, it's faith-filled, and it just inspires you to believe God has more for your life. In fact, if you haven't already, register for Icing. Your mindset will improve, your determination will grow, and you will get the keys to live your dreams. It's Labor Day weekend here in Dallas, Texas, and I would love to meet you there. But I heard this story about a university professor. He was getting ready, to pass out the final exams, which was the most important lesson of the year. Well, before he passed it out, he told the class how proud he was of them. Because they'd done so good, he made them a special offer. He said, anyone that would like to receive an automatic C on this test, raise your hand. He said, you don't even have to take the test. You get an automatic C. He said it was quiet for a while. All of a sudden, one hand cowardly went up, then another, until about half the class got up and walked out of the class. They were so relieved, so happy. Well, the professor went on to pass the test out to the rest of the students, and he placed it face down on their desk. He asked them to not turn it over until he instructed them to do so. Well, for the next few minutes, he encouraged them on how they were going to go far in life, that they should always strive to do their best in life. Then he gave them the word that it was time to turn the test over and get started. When they turned over the papers, it only had 2 sentences. Congratulations, you just made an A. The ones who stayed believed they had what it took to get an A. Why settle for a C when you can get an A? Well, this is what we do many times in life. We settle for a C, not realizing God had an A in our future. When you learn to, just live with it, you're settling for a C. So my question is, you might be saying, but Terry, what about my age? You don't know how old I am. You don't know how many years I've lost, how many missed opportunities I've had. I'm glad you brought that up because maybe you didn't, I did. But I proved the point in the book Dream It, Pen It, Live It that your age does not matter. Listen to this. At age 40, Lucille Ball debuted as Lucy Ricardo in the comedy I Love Lucy. She was 40. At 44, Sam Walton started Walmart. At 53, Walt Disney opened his first theme park, Disneyland, in Anaheim, California. At 69, after 22 years of work, Noah Webster published the dictionary. I could go on and on. At 77, astronaut John Glenn returned to space on the Space Shuttle Discovery mission. So, you are not too old. You've not wasted too many years. And you know what? You'll never be truly fulfilled if you keep settling for C's. In fact, you're doing the best thing for yourself by watching podcasts like this one. But don't let this be a one-time thing. See, faith comes by hearing. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast right now so you get constant faith-building, positive teaching to retrain your mind that God does have more for your life. I'm passionate about teaching you to, make a vision board, to set goals for your life and constantly grow to the next level. See, the truth is, what you achieve isn't nearly as important as who you become as you're working towards your goals. Here's the truth. As you're working on the goal is working on you. So you got to keep your faith built up. And see, successful people never stop growing. I was listening to a podcast where they were saying Mary Kay Ash of Mary Kay Cosmetics said she would never get in her car without audios that she could listen to while driving. H.L. Hunt, who was worth $3 billion at the time of his death, he listened to audio recordings every day until after he was 80 years old. Wallace Johnson, the co-founder of the Holiday Inns, he said at 80 years old, he listens to messages every day and reads 2 books every month. Alan Bean, one of the astronauts who walked on the moon, he said that on their way to the moon and back, they listened to motivational teachings like Zig Ziglar. Isn't that amazing? So think about it. These successful people who represent the most goal-oriented people in the world, they found it helpful to consistently listen to motivational teaching to keep your faith built up. So what do you do once your vision board is up? While you're waiting for your dreams to manifest? In 3 words, build your faith. Keep exposing yourself to more. Let me close out with this. I heard Joel Osteen tell this story about bumblebees, talking about how researchers took them up into space to study the effects of weightlessness on them. Now, I've shared this many times, but it's worth repeating. He said they're studying these bees. They're just floating around in space. They're not having to flap their wings, nothing. All of a sudden, on the 4th day, they all died, every one of them. He said the scientists concluded that the bees were not designed to live without resistance. And neither are you. We weren't created to just float through life on a cloud with no resistance. Difficulties, they're just a part of life. So you have an enemy who is fighting against your dreams. He's trying everything in his power to wipe you out, to keep you from living your dreams. You have to keep your faith built up. And how do you do that? Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Romans 10:17. Now before I close, I want to recognize the subscriber of the week. So this week, it is Scarlett Larios. Scarlett Larios. Larios. That's a cute name. It says, well, goodness, I feel embarrassed saying this. You're absolutely amazing. No, you are, Scarlett. Thanks for writing. She says, thank you for inspiring me every single day. She said, you've inspired me to begin my own YouTube channel. I love it. I'm a mother of 2, working full-time and studying to become an attorney. Dear Lord, and a YouTube channel. Thank you for pouring life into my dreams. Scarlett, you are amazing. What an inspiration you are. Thank you so much for taking the time to write to me and just to hear that you're going for it. You're going to become an attorney while being a full-time mom. You're amazing. So I want you to have this special worksheet I put together to help you get committed to your goals. All you got to do is go to terry.com/worksheet to get your free download. I know it's going to help you. You're going to be so glad you got this. Get started today. And hey, if you've never subscribed, push the little arrow and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter so I can keep you motivated to live your dreams. Thanks for watching.